Let me ask you a real question. Have you ever felt like you were giving your all in a relationship but still felt alone? Like every time you reach for them emotionally, it's like grabbing mist. You text, they forget. You get vulnerable, they shut down. You ask, what are we? And suddenly they need space. That's not love. That's not emotional safety. That, my friend, is an avoidant attachment style, and it's a massive red flag. And here's the thing. It's not just about them. It's about you. Why are you chasing someone who runs the moment it gets real? Why are you addicted to the roller coaster of hot and cold? What in you is tolerating emotional starvation and calling it romance? Let me break it down for you raw and real, because I want to shake your soul a little and wake you up. They want love. They really do. But the moment it starts to feel real, when the emotions deepen, when you get close to seeing their true self, walls go up like clockwork. It's confusing, right? 1 minute they're texting you nonstop, sharing inside jokes, opening up about their past. You feel the connection. It's electric. But just as quickly, they pull away. They need space. They say, I'm just busy. Suddenly, the person who made you feel special makes you feel invisible. And you're left wondering, was it all in my head? Here's what's really happening. People with avoidant attachment styles crave connection just like anyone else. They're human after all. But deep down, intimacy feels threatening. Vulnerability feels like danger. They've learned, consciously or not, that letting people in leads to pain, control, or loss of autonomy. Maybe it started in childhood. Maybe someone emotionally unavailable raised them. Maybe love always felt conditional, performance-based. Whatever the source, they internalized the belief that closeness equals risk. And now, when they get too close, their brain sounds the alarm. Run, shut down, protect yourself. This creates a maddening dynamic for their partner. In the early stages, the avoidant can be charming, attentive, even seductive. They know how to connect, but only to a point. The moment the relationship starts to feel secure, when commitment is on the horizon or emotions rise, they recoil. It's not malicious, it's survival, but to you it feels personal. You feel like you did something wrong. You start overanalyzing your words, your texts, your needs. You start shrinking to avoid pushing them away. And that's the trap. The more you pursue, the more they pull back. The more you try to fix the connection, the more exhausted you become. And the most painful part, in those rare, vulnerable moments, you know they care. You see their potential. You feel their heart. But you're constantly fighting to reach it through a thick wall of fear. This kind of dynamic is not sustainable. You can't build a partnership when one person is terrified of the very thing you're offering. Connection shouldn't feel like a chase. It shouldn't feel like you have to earn every ounce of closeness. If you're constantly walking on eggshells to keep someone from pulling away, that's not love. That's emotional labor. And no matter how strong your feelings are, no matter how much potential you see in them, you can't outrun their fear of intimacy. You can only decide if that's the relationship you want to keep fighting for. One of the most dangerous lies we tell ourselves in relationships is that the emotional roller coaster we're on is passion, that the high highs and low lows mean we're in something deep and meaningful, that the pain is part of the proof that it's real. But let's get honest, that isn't passion. That's emotional chaos. That's inconsistency disguised as chemistry. And when you're dealing with someone who has an avoidant attachment style, this push-pull pattern is exactly what keeps you hooked. Avoidance often creates cycles that are intense in the beginning. They know how to show up when they want to. They'll charm you, engage you, make you feel like you've finally met someone different. And in those moments, it feels incredible. You bond fast. You stay up late talking. You laugh. You might even feel seen in ways you haven't before. But the moment things begin to deepen, when you start expecting consistency, vulnerability, or commitment, the energy shifts. Suddenly they're busy, distracted, unavailable. You sense it before they even say anything. And then the silence creeps in. What happens next is critical. You start craving the connection that just vanished. You start yearning to feel that rush again, the spark, the intimacy you felt just days ago. And when they finally come back, whether it's a casual text, a late night call, or a brief moment of warmth, you feel relieved, even euphoric. It's like a hit of emotional dopamine. And right there, you start associating their inconsistency with excitement, with desire, with love. This pattern wires your nervous system for anxiety. You're not calm in the relationship. You're constantly trying to interpret signals. You start to confuse unpredictability with depth. You tell yourself that the intensity means it must be real. But real love isn't inconsistent. Real love doesn't leave you doubting where you stand. Real love doesn't have you constantly questioning your worth, wondering if your needs are too much, or tiptoeing around emotional landmines just to keep the peace. The truth is, emotional inconsistency creates instability. It hijacks your nervous system. It keeps you trapped in a loop where you're always chasing reassurance, always trying to get back to the good part. But love isn't something you should have to chase. It's something that should be felt steadily, even when life gets tough. If the connection only feels good in fleeting moments, but leaves you empty the rest of the time, that's not a relationship, it's a cycle. And no matter how intense those moments are, they're not worth sacrificing your peace. So many people fall into the trap of thinking they can fix something, that with enough love, enough patience, enough understanding, they'll break through the walls, unlock their partner's heart, and finally get the connection they crave. Especially when it comes to someone with an avoidant attachment style, it's easy to believe that if you just love them right, if you just stay consistent, you'll eventually earn their trust. But let's be real. You cannot heal what is not yours to heal. You cannot carry the emotional weight of someone else's fear of intimacy, no matter how deeply you care. Avoidant individuals often operate from a place of deep-rooted fear. Fear of being overwhelmed, of losing themselves, of being emotionally engulfed. So, when things get serious, they create distance. They shut down. They may not even fully understand why they're pulling away, but their behavior is shaped by years of conditioning. Experiences that taught them that closeness equals danger, that vulnerability leads to pain. These beliefs are hardwired, and unless they're actively doing the inner work to unlearn those patterns, nothing you say or do will change them. This is where people get stuck. You think if I just hold on a little longer, they'll come around. You justify the coldness, the avoidance, the mixed signals, telling yourself it's because they've been hurt before, because they're scared, because they're not used to love like yours, and maybe that's all true. But here's the harsh truth. Even if they're hurting, even if they're scared, it's still not your job to rescue them. Love does not mean abandoning your own needs to cater to someone else's emotional limitations. Trying to fix someone who isn't ready to grow is like pouring water into a cup with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much effort you give, it never feels like enough. And over time, you start to feel drained, depleted, even resentful. You become so focused on managing their emotions that you lose sight of your own. You start silencing your voice just to keep the peace. That's not love. That's codependency dressed up as devotion. Everyone has wounds. We all come with baggage, but healing has to be a personal choice, not a project someone else takes on for us. If someone isn't willing to face their own walls, take accountability, and step into vulnerability even when it's uncomfortable, then you're not in a partnership. You're in a one-sided emotional labor camp. And no matter how much potential you see in them, love cannot grow where only one person is doing the work. When someone with an avoidant attachment style starts to pull away, shut down, or create emotional distance, it's natural to start asking, what did I do wrong? That question becomes a loop in your mind. You retrace every conversation, every message, every moment. You wonder if you came on too strong, if you were too emotional, if your needs were too much. And that's exactly how the avoidant pattern begins to mess with your self-worth. It convinces you that their behavior is somehow your fault. But here's the truth you need to hear. Their avoidance has nothing to do with your value. It's not a reflection of your worthiness. It's not because you were too intense or too needy or too anything. It's because they have a deep-rooted fear of emotional closeness. And when intimacy shows up, when you offer real connection, their survival instincts kick in. Their mind tells them to back off, protect themselves, maintain control. That instinct was likely formed long before you ever entered the picture. Avoidant individuals often struggle with vulnerability. To them, closeness can feel suffocating. Love might feel like a threat, not a gift. When you lean in, they lean out, not because you're unlovable, but because they don't know how to safely navigate that kind of emotional space. And when they create that distance, the silence, the inconsistency, it's incredibly easy to internalize it. You start believing you were too much, when in fact, you were just trying to love someone who doesn't yet know how to receive it. This belief that their withdrawal means you're not enough can begin to erode your confidence. You shrink, you edit yourself, You start tolerating crumbs, thinking that's all you deserve. But none of this is based on truth. It's based on a dynamic that triggers your wounds and clouds your clarity. And that's exactly what avoidant dynamics do. They confuse you. They get you to question your instincts, your standards, your needs. Let me be clear. Their inability to meet you emotionally isn't proof that you're broken. It's a signal that they aren't capable of giving what you're asking for. Instead of bending to fit inside their limitations, you need to remember who you are. Just because someone cannot show up for you emotionally does not mean your emotions are too much. Just because they fear intimacy doesn't mean your desire for connection is a flaw. Their avoidance is a reflection of their emotional wiring, not your lovability. Never forget that. There comes a point when you have to stop romanticizing potential and start honoring reality. Love should not be a battlefield where you constantly fight for attention, connection, and consistency. It should not feel like a game where you're always one misstep away from silence. When someone shuts down every time emotions rise or disappears when you need support, that's not a relationship. It's emotional survival. And the truth is, you deserve love that shows up, not love that vanishes when things get real. Too many people settle for love that is conditional, distant, or inconsistent because it's what they've been taught to expect. Maybe you were raised in an environment where affection came with strings attached. Maybe you've been in past relationships where you had to earn attention through perfection or sacrifice. So now when someone avoids you emotionally, a part of you sees it as normal or even exciting. The uncertainty starts to feel like love, but it's not. Real love does not leave you guessing. Real love does not punish you for having needs. A partner who shows up emotionally isn't a fantasy. They exist. They text you back without delay. They remember the little things. They ask how you're really doing and actually stay to listen. They don't run when things get heavy. They lean in. They are emotionally mature enough to handle vulnerability even when it's uncomfortable. And they don't see your feelings as a burden. They see them as a bridge to deeper connection. You deserve a relationship where communication isn't a landmine, where affection isn't rationed out like a reward. You deserve to be met with presence, with consistency, with care. You deserve someone who chooses you without hesitation, who doesn't leave when you're at your most exposed. Avoidant partners may have good hearts, but good intentions are not a substitute for emotional availability. It doesn't matter how much chemistry you have or how much potential you see. If they shut down every time you need them, you are not in a safe relationship. You're in survival mode. Love that shows up is steady. It's not always flashy or dramatic, but it's there every day. It makes you feel calm, not confused, seen, not silenced, supported, not starved. It allows you to breathe deeply, trust fully, and grow freely. That's the kind of love you were built for. Not one you have to chase, not one you have to convince to stay, but one that meets you where you are and walks beside you step for step through all of it. When it comes to love, we've been sold a lot of myths. That love should be dramatic, that distance is mysterious, that the chase means it's real. But the truth is, healthy love doesn't leave you feeling anxious, unseen, or emotionally starved. And when you're caught in a dynamic with someone who has an avoidant attachment style, it can feel like you're constantly reaching out only to touch air. That isn't passion. That's pain disguised as excitement. You start calling confusion chemistry and settle for breadcrumbs, hoping one day they'll give you the full loaf. But here's the reality check. Love shouldn't hurt more than it heals. Love should be a space where both people can breathe, connect, and build something real together. Let's not pretend it's easy to walk away from someone you care about. It's hard. When you see the good in them, when you catch glimpses of who they could be if only they'd let you in. That potential is intoxicating, but potential doesn't build relationships. Actions do. You cannot have a healthy connection when only one person is emotionally present. You can't force someone to be ready. You can't drag them into growth if they're fighting to stay exactly where they are. Love demands courage from both people. And if you're the only one doing the emotional heavy lifting, then it's time to ask yourself if you're in a relationship or just carrying the illusion of one. You've done enough trying, enough fixing, enough hoping they'll finally come around. And deep down, you know this. You deserve someone who doesn't make you feel like you're too much or not enough. Someone who doesn't punish you with distance or silence when things get real. You deserve the kind of connection where vulnerability isn't met with withdrawal, but with presence, with honesty, with love. And if that kind of relationship hasn't found you yet, that doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're being prepared to recognize what real reciprocal love looks like so that next time you won't settle for anything less. Let this be the moment you stop over-pumping in relationships that underdeliver. Let this be the moment you reclaim your standards, your peace, your power. You are not here to chase love, earn love, or beg for love. You are here to receive love fully, completely, without conditions, without confusion. The love you're searching for will never require you to dim your light or silence your voice. It won't ask you to shrink. It will ask you to show up. And it will meet you there with open arms, not closed doors. So as you walk away from patterns that no longer serve you, hold your head high, not because you're bitter, but because you're finally better. Better for knowing what you want, better for understanding what you deserve, better because you've learned sometimes the biggest red flag isn't their avoidance, it's your willingness to stay when love never showed up. Now you know, now you choose. And this time, you choose you. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, reflect, and share this space with me today. If this message resonated with you, if it stirred something deep or gave you a moment of clarity, you're not alone. Healing, growth, and choosing better love is a journey, and every step matters. If you found value in this, please consider liking, sharing, or dropping a comment. Your voice, your experience, and your presence matter more than you know, and who knows, your courage to speak up might be the lifeline someone else needs. I appreciate you being here, truly. Your growth is powerful, your heart is worthy, and your future relationships can be rooted in something real, safe, and soul deep. Never settle for anything less. Until next time, take care of your heart, trust your gut, and keep choosing the love that chooses you back. Thank you again, and goodbye for now.